Hey kiddos, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a really quick review over complex sentences. Okay, so we know that a complex sentence is when I have an independent clause and a dependent clause put together. Okay, so remember, an independent clause is a simple sentence that can stand on its own. It's a sentence that all by itself, it's a complete sentence. It's got a subject and it's got a predicate. We can't play outside. So my subject here is we. My predicate is play. Okay, we can't play. All right, so then let's look at what a dependent clause is. A dependent clause means it cannot stand alone. It needs extra help to stand up. So what you notice is right here, I have this word that says unless. This is what we call, and I'm just going to abbreviate here because I'm writing with my finger on my pad. This is what we call a conjunction. Your daily grammar sheet, my in-class kiddos, has all of these conjunctions on there. Okay, my virtual kiddos, you're going to find these on that anchor chart that is on your Google Classroom, okay? So it is a sentence that cannot stand on its own. So when I look at this sentence, unless the rain stops, all of this together is a subject. And I know that we're tempted to say, well, stops is a predicate, but listen, this word right here says, unless the rain stops. All of that is the subject. What happens? The rain stops. Okay, so we've got to make sure that we're understanding that when I have this conjunction here, all of this part becomes the subject. I don't know what happens next. Unless the rain stops, what? What's going to happen unless the rain stops? But I can put them together so that it makes sense. We can't play outside unless the rain stops. Now remember, these conjunctions can go at the beginning of a sentence or in the middle of a sentence. So I could rewrite this. And I could write, unless the rain stops, comma, we can't play outside. When my conjunction is at the beginning of the sentence, after that clause, after the dependent clause, after the part that can't stand by itself, I have to have a comma, and then I can have my independent clause. Okay? But I can't have that unless I can't have my independent clause unless I put a comma after my conjunction. But when it's in the middle of the sentence, it's fine, just like this. See, there's no comma here. We can't play outside unless the rain stops. Okay, I've got my independent clause, my conjunction, and my dependent clause. So it can start with a, like we said, it can start with one. And what do you notice? My comma. My comma separates my dependent clause. Okay, after we eat lunch, there's my dependent. And then right here, I've got my independent, okay? But we've got to make sure that if that's the conjunctions at the beginning of the sentence, right after that dependent clause, that part that cannot stand by itself, I'm putting a comma. Okay, so you see my conjunction, my dependent clause, my independent clause, and all of that is separated by a comma. Okay, it can also be, like we said, in the middle. We can't watch a movie after we can watch a movie after we eat lunch. If it's in the middle, I don't have to separate anything because there's my independent, there's my dependent. It's just when my dependent is at the beginning, when my conjunction's at the beginning, right here, that I've got to make sure I have this comma. Again, all of those conjunctions are on my in-class kiddos, your daily grammar sheet, my virtual kiddos on Google Classroom. Okay, so I've got my independent clause, my conjunction, and my dependent clause. Okay, and there's no comma. If it's in the middle, it doesn't need a comma. Okay, so here we go. Some of your task cards, let's get to the task cards because that's what you're about to work on, and I want you to see that. Okay, your task card's going to ask you 3 different questions. One task card might have you find the independent clause. Remember, the independent clause is the one that stands all by itself. Okay, so let's look at this sentence. If I leave work early, comma, so that tells me that this is a clause and that this is a clause. So now I have to decide which part is dependent, which part is independent. And remember, I'm looking for independent, the one that can stand all by itself. Well, what I see here is this word if, and we know that that's a conjunction. So this part right here becomes my dependent clause. Everything else is independent. Okay, let me erase what I've got there because that's a lot going on. Let's pick a different color. Okay, in my independent, I have my subject. What will I do? pick you up. Okay? Because in my dependent clause, I have this conjunction. Everything right here is a subject. Okay? So when it asks you to find the independent clause, you're looking for the one that can stand all by itself. So I've got it highlighted for you here. I will pick you up at 3 p.m. Another question that you might be asked is to find the dependent clause, the one that cannot stand by itself. Okay, Paul brings Dana flowers every week. Oh, here's my conjunction, even though he knows she is allergic. Okay, remember my dependent clause has the conjunction in it. So that's going to be everything after the conjunction. Okay, that's going to be my dependent clause. The last one that you're going to see today on your task card review, well, let me get this working. Here we go. Is going to be where you have two sentences and you're going to have to combine them with a conjunction. Now, remember, you can do it both ways, in the beginning, in the middle. I chose to put this one in the middle. That should say mail. I'm sorry, kiddos. The mail carrier stopped delivering my mail after my dog bit him. But what happens? Let's type this out a different way. What happens if I rewrote this sentence? I've got to make sure I have a comma. So if I started it out with my conjunction, I said, after my dog, I'd have to rewrite it a little bit. Dog bit the mail carrier. What do I see right there? What did I just put in that sentence? A comma. Because I have my dependent clause. My dependent clause has the conjunction. Okay? After my dog bit the mail carrier, he stopped delivering my mail. Okay? If it's at the beginning, it's got to have a comma after the clause. If it's in the middle, like how I had it, it does not have to have a comma. Okay? The mail carrier stopped delivering my mail. Well, if Miss Megan could spell, that would make life easier. Okay? The mail carrier stopped delivering my mail after my dog bit him. Notice that I don't have a comma because after is in the middle, so I don't need a comma. So that's still my dependent, but I don't have to have a comma to separate them because my conjunction is separating them for me. Okay? All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to go work on complex sentences task cards on Google Classroom. Some of them, you're going to have to pick the independent clause. Some of them, you're going to have to pick the dependent clause. Some of them, you're going to have to type it out. Okay, the most important part, remember when you're typing it out, if the conjunction is in the beginning, there's got to be a comma somewhere in the middle. All right, kiddos, let me know if you need any help. I can't get my eraser to go away. Oh, no. Oh, no, kiddos. We're stuck. The eraser will not go away. We just love spending time together so much that we can't end the video. Well, I promise you, you can go ahead and stop this video. I'm going to figure out how to get us situated, and then you guys can go work. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you guys in just a little bit.